All right, that's good. Okay. It looks like we may be ready to go one more. All right, yeah, we are live. Okay. Hey, so welcome everyone. Happy what? Today's Thursday. Happy Thursday, everyone. We're a week away from, Christmas and 2 weeks away from the new year. And we have a very, very special presentation for you today. We have one of our partners are here from Crecer Connect, Amir Tashini. He's going to be going over some very important information, I feel, super important for not only yourself but for your clients, everyone that you sit down and meet with. And the title says it all, right? It's help your clients plan for retirement and save on taxes. I feel like this is an important conversation that everyone should have, right? With each and every client that comes and sits in your office, um, it should always be a conversation that pops up, right? I feel like being as tax preparers, we're the front person to lead them in the right direction, right? A lot of the times clients come to us, they ask us for um, or maybe who they should talk to go buy a house or what they should do, right? Where I feel like sometimes we're like their financial doctor and we need to find out a way to lead them in the right direction. So having different avenues and different things that we can refer them out to basically puts you in a better space for your client, right? You become that master provider for your client. So I want to introduce right here Amir Tashini. He's from Cassette Connect. Thank you so much for being on the Zoom with us today. And I know you have some great information for us today. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the intro, Robert. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for everyone that's joining. I know it's a busy time of year. We're all getting ready for the holidays. I'm excited. But this is coming up with tax season. We thought it'd be a good time to discuss one of the big problems we have in our country and really in the community of immigrants. It's more profound. As the title says, help your clients plan for retirement and save on taxes. So to start, we're just going to do kind of a state of the country when it comes to the topic of retirement savings, specifically when it comes to small business employees, which I know a lot of the tax preparers out there are supporting not only small business owners, but small business employees. And so before I get into that, I just want to give some background on Crecer Connect. By the way, I'm the CEO, co-founder of Crecer Connect. And our mission really and why we started the company is to help people from all levels of society plan for retirement. This is, again, it's a big problem. It's something that's personal for me coming from an immigrant family. None of my parents, none of my relatives, I should say, neither of my parents had a retirement account. They worked for many years in this country and really didn't take advantage of the tax savings you get by putting money into a retirement account, as well as just investing in the U.S. economy, the U.S. stock market. And it's kind of a miss. And a lot of folks in our community, I know there's people tuning in that are immigrants themselves or come from immigrant families that understand how big of a challenge it is. And there's still people just putting money under the mattress bajo del colchón. And that's not really, long term, a good money management thing. Our team, we have 20 years of experience building financial technology, and we've taken that expertise in investing as well as technology to build a platform that's one, easy to use, and we'll get into a demo later in the session. But also it's cost effective. Because a lot of things are automated, we're able to make it really cost effective for the users. So let's start with some concerning statistics. It's going to sound kind of depressing. I'm going to go through some statistics that many of you may know, but it's just kind of eye-opening when you see it. First is only 40% of employees that work for businesses with less than 100 employees, so small businesses, actually have a retirement account. And this data is directly from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can see I highlighted in red when it's 1 to 99 workers, so less than 100, only 59% have access to a retirement plan, and only 40% are participating. When you go even to smaller businesses, which again, I know a lot of the folks are supporting small business employees that are just, a handful of employees, small business owners, it's only 55% have access to a retirement plan and 38% have participation. So this is recent data from earlier this year. And we can just see how bad the participation rates are, and even just the accessibility for retirement accounts for small business employees. Another related statistic is in the Hispanic community. Again, Hispanics represent, of course, the largest population of immigrants in the country. You can see that the latest data from 2020, which is the last census that the government did, said that only 28% of Hispanics in the US have a retirement account. And some of the studies have shown that hasn't really changed much. And I know that's 5 years ago, but the reality is it's pretty much in the same area, maybe plus or minus 2%. But you can see that the problem gets even more profound when you get into the immigrant community, the Hispanic community. That's just too small of a number. Some more statistics. Now, let's talk about Social Security. The latest updates that were just released a few weeks ago says that the average Social Security payment for retirees in the US will be about 1,868 a month. That's after the $203 Medicare payment deduction. Now, again, for Hispanic Latinos, unfortunately, again, representing the largest population of immigrants in the country, it's much lower. It's 1,363 a month, about 27% lower. And this is based on a study that was done recently in the last couple of years that broke out the Social Security benefits by ethnicity. And you might be thinking, well, why is it so much lower? Their Social Security Administration, in order to calculate your retirement benefit as a as a retiree, considers 35 years of your work history in the U.S. And as many of the tax preparers know, that everybody pays 6.2% of their paycheck into Social Security taxes. If you're an owner operator, you pay double that. You pay 12.4%. And so if you're an immigrant in the country and you've only, let's say, worked 20 years in the US, or you've earned a minimum wage, you naturally have not paid a lot of Social Security taxes. And so again, that formula considers 35 years of your work history. And so the folks that are coming here aren't working 35 years, or at least claiming that they're working 35 years, right? Or they're earning less, they're not going to get the 1360, or they're not even going to get the 1868. Sorry, they're going to get the lower amount. And actually, I have relatives that don't even clear $1,000 in their Social Security benefit. So living in a major metropolitan area, as we'll see in a minute, for cost of living, that's just not going to cut it. Now, last thing I should say on that last statistic, by the way, is if you're an ITIN holder, as many of you may be supporting ITIN holders, you don't qualify for Social Security benefits. To make matters worse, by 2033, the Social Security program is set to only have budget to pay, excuse me, up to 77% of the benefits. And as you know, we just had the longest shutdown in government history. The US does have a budget problem. I'm not here to talk about politics, but there is risk that our Social Security program, even at these low payouts, could get even lower in the future. Now, if we contrast that to the average spend, cost of living. So again, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics released some data in 2023 that said the people over 65 were average spending $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. Now, that includes people that have savings and have income. This is just an aggregate data point. But I think everybody can agree that the cost of living continues to go up. We'll talk about inflation in a second. And just relying on Social Security payments, even if you're getting these average figures that we're showing here on the screen, is just not going to cover your cost of living as a retiree if you're not able to work full time. I mentioned inflation. So in the last 20 years, we've experienced an average about 3 to 4% per year, which is not bad, by the way, when you consider the US versus some of the emerging markets that have experienced really hyperinflation. We all remember after COVID, you can see this chart below, there was a big spike, almost 10% year over year inflation. The thing about this data is it's an overall aggregation. If you break it down by specific services, like hospital services, which retirees and elderly citizens obviously rely more on hospital services, you can see that just in the last 12 months, inflation was 5.5%. So this is something that's just part of our economy and pretty much most economies in the world, that the cost of living is just going to continue to go up. If you contrast that against the same time period, the last 20 years, the overall stock market has gained approximately 10% per year. And there's a really good way to visualize inflation versus investing in this next chart. So I love this. It says $1,000 under the mattress versus $1,000 in the S&P 500. So what does that mean? If you had just put $1,000 under your mattress, which a lot of people still do, meaning it's not gaining interest, in 2005, the purchasing power of that money in 2025, because of inflation eroding the cash, is only $610. Now, you might say, well, I still have $1,000 in my hand. That's true, but what you can buy today with $1,000 is much less than what you could have bought in 2005 with $1,000. So if you're not gaining interest, and we have clients out there that are just stashing money in their house and not gaining interest, it's not a good use of money. It's not good money management. It's not setting you up for future success. Now, if you contrast that to had you put $1,000 in the S&P 500, and for those who don't know what the S&P 500 is, it's a stock fund of the pretty much the 500 largest companies, not exactly the 500 largest companies in the US, but more or less a diverse set of 500 really public companies in the US stock market, which is a good barometer for the overall stock market in general. If you had put $1,000 into the S&P 500 in 2005, it would be worth roughly $7,400 today. Now, we can't predict that the next 20 years are going to be exactly like the last 20 years. We've had a really good run in the stock market the last 20 years. But when you look at historically long periods of time in investing in the US market, 10, 20, 30 years, which is what you should be thinking in terms of retirement accounts, that's the topic today. The stock market has generally returned a positive, and inflation has obviously been basically eroding your cash over that same time period. So it's just a way to represent, saving cash without earning anything on it is never going to outperform, at least historically, what you can do by investing in it. So let's summarize what we've talked about. One, small business employees aren't investing in retirement accounts. We started with those statistics. It's even worse in the Hispanic community. Social Security isn't enough to cover most retirees' living expenses. And again, if you're an ITIN holder, you don't even qualify for any payouts. And then inflation is eating away at your cash if you're not investing it, if you're not earning interest on it. But why are we in this situation, right? I'm talking about all these negative statistics. Why are we an immigrant community or a small business community in this situation? One, many small business workers and immigrants lack strong financial education. They don't have a trusted resource to teach them about key topics. They don't really understand the concept of inflation is eroding your money, and investing, even for people that are born and educated in the US, it's a really stressful topic. There's a lot to it to understand how to invest your money. So understanding benefits of retirement planning is it's something that we're just not educating our small business community on. Another thing is 401(k) programs were not designed for small businesses. There's an added cost for the business owner, and there's a lot of administrative work. I'm sure some folks out there that are CPAs understand you have to file the 5,500 every year, and most, pretty much all, I should say, 401(k) providers are going to charge administrative costs. And so it doesn't make sense for a lot of small business owners that only have a handful of employees, and maybe they have part-time employees. There's a lot of churn to really set up a 401(k) programs. 401(k) programs are great if it's a larger business and they can do it and they can do employee matching. But really, again, the small business community, it really wasn't designed for that. A couple other factors of why we're in this situation. One, the retirement plans offered by state programs can be difficult to administer. So for those that are in California, they may know about the CalSavers program, which is the spirit of the program is great. It's forcing the businesses in the state to either use the state-run retirement program or offer another solution or another retirement plan to their employees. Again, I think that's great. They've recognized the statistics that we just talked about. But I've used it personally. It's a lot of manual work to manage and enter the employee contributions every pay period. So it's kind of a burden. And then some employees, this is just feedback we've gotten directly from our clients. They don't really like the idea that the government's managing their money. We're not here to kind of weigh in on whether that's right or wrong, but that's just, again, some of the sentiment that's out there. Another factor of why we're in this situation is if you send, and I've had literally dozens and dozens of tax preparer clients and tell me this, like, hey, I sent my client to the local bank or some broker online, and they just didn't have a good experience. They didn't know what to do. There were high fees and minimums, right? And so if it's a low income client, they only have, let's say, $500,000 or maybe even less to invest. They're just not going to get a lot of love from those brokers. And there's a lot of buried fees, And lastly, it's not really a personalized experience. Maybe the client only speaks Spanish. The broker doesn't have a website that's available in Spanish. So it's just if you're not a high value client, you may not get a great experience. That's not true for all, by the way. There are some good services out there, but this is just again feedback that's I think discouraged some folks from actually going and taking that step to actually open an investment account. All right, so how can we help? That, we've obviously identified this problem. This is not a new problem. A lot of folks have known about this, but we're passionate about trying to help solve it. So with Crecer Connect, and I'll get into the dashboard in a minute. We can show you how this works, but we have a financial education portal where you can share engaging content to your clients in both English and Espanol. We're gonna show that in a minute as well, on key financial topics. Some of the benefits of retirement planning. What is the Savers credit? Some of you may know that for low income folks that put money into an IRA, how can they get tax advantaged account? What are tax advantage accounts? How can the client get tax savings? So just giving them this education and helping them understand how the system works. This is totally free to share, and it's something that again we've tried to make really simple to understand. The main component of Crecer Connect is the administrative dashboard, which is the platform for setting up retirement accounts, traditional or Roth IRAs for your clients. And we also support clients that have ITINs. Again, we're passionate about helping the small business immigrant community, and we know that there are a lot of folks out there with ITINs. And so we do have the ability to open IRAs for clients with ITINs. These retirement plans can be set up for business clients as well. So you may have a business client where you manage the books, you do payroll, you can help their employees get set up. You can also, we'll show in a minute the how you can do a direct deposit from any payroll system that you're using to manage paychecks for your business clients. And for the folks that are in California, this can be used as an alternative to CalSavers. You can also set up individual plans. So, you're at the tax table in a couple months, you're helping folks file their taxes. You can do this right there and then and there. I'll show in a minute in the dashboard where you can help them get set up with a traditional or Roth IRA. And this works well for say, your sole proprietor, your gig worker clients as well. So Crecer Connect is a dashboard for tax preparers and accountants. The actual software that manages the IRAs is Crecer. And here again, I mentioned we have traditional and Roth IRAs. These are going to be personalized. So there's an algorithm, there's a software that's going to consider the client's age, their investment objective, and risk tolerance. As we're going through the demo, you'll see what that experience is like for the individual that's creating their account. This is fully automated. So it's designed for folks that don't know how to invest. They don't have the time or really the desire to learn how to invest. And so once the client creates the account, they don't have any other action. The system is going to create their investments for them and manage it automatically. And it's going to be aligned with the client's profile based on those questions that we asked earlier on. There's no cost to the business owner. So, I kind of mentioned the challenge of 401ks earlier and being expensive and the high administrative burden. Because these are IRAs, there's no administrative requirement, and we don't charge the business owner to set up the employees through their payroll system. We charge $5 a month to the account owner. So that's going to be the employee or the individual that creates the account. If their balance goes over $20,000, we move to 0.3% annually. So these are really competitive rates for managing the investments. We're able to do that, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the call, just because of the technology that we built. Lastly, we know that folks want to know, is their money protected? So yes, we have insurance with our custody provider up to $500,000 balance. And of course, this isn't going to protect against moves in the market. If there's the market goes down a little bit, nobody's going to be able to offer insurance for that. But this is in case there's an issue with the custody where the funds are actually held, there's insurance. Okay. Let's talk about tax updates because we're talking about IRAs. So as you guys know that the tax updates can be very lengthy. There's always like a sub bullet under each section. So I just summarized some of the main ones here. So first is IRA contribution limits. So if you're under 50 today, it's 7,000 a year. It's moving up to 7,500 a year. You can contribute to a traditional or Roth IRA. If you're over 50, it's moving from $8,000 a year to $8,600 a year. For Roth IRAs, which have some advantages that we can talk about later, to open a Roth IRA, you have to have an income lower than these values. They've increased that threshold. So for a single filer, it's going up to 168,000 and for a married filer, 252,000. If you're below that income, you can open a Roth IRA and contribute to a Roth IRA. There's a phase out. I didn't leave it here because there's a formula for a phase out, but this is kind of the maximum level. And then a savers credit, which is just really golden for lower income working class folks that are below these income levels. This is actually a dollar for dollar credit after the adjusted gross income is calculated for folks that contribute to an IRA. It can be a traditional or Roth IRA. So this is actually even better than a tax deduction. This is actually just a credit back at the bottom line of the tax calculation. And so they've increased the limit for the folks who qualify for that. For single filers, if you're below $40,250, and for married filers under 80,500. This can be again basically free money that goes back to the tax preparer, or sorry, to the client that's contributing to their IRA. So just to summarize this portion, you can really bring value to your clients by just helping them understand the benefits of how they can save taxes and plan for retirement, letting them know that Social Security isn't going to cut it. And really, that's ultimately going to help grow your business, right? You're providing value to clients. You're helping them save money and invest their money just by making them aware of what this program does and what an IRA can do for them. And we do have a referral fee of $50 for each new client that's registered on Crecer Connect. So if you're leveraging the platform to help administer IRAs for the client and doing financial education, excuse me, through our platform, you can qualify for a referral fee. So I'm going to change my screen and transition into the actual product demo, and then we're going to save time at the end for questions. Okay, so here we're in the Crecer Connect administrative dashboard. And if you create your Crecer Connect account, you'll have this view. Everything we do, both from the administrative side as well as the individual client side, is fully translatable in Espanol and English. And there's no cost to create your Coursera Connect administrative account. It takes literally 2 minutes and you'll be up into this dashboard. I have some test data here that we can use for the demo. So let's start with if you have a business client and you want to help get them set up, get their employees set up. So you'd go in here and you'd click Add Business Client. You'd provide some basic information about the business. If you manage payroll for the business, you would say yes is actually a really important question because this is going to trigger the payroll deduction setup that we're going to go through now. So for this first part of the demo, we're going to assume that you do manage payroll and you just provide some basic information about the business contact. We don't actively reach out to the business owner, but we just like to have it for record keeping. Once you add the business client, I'll go ahead and skip that since we have one here called Acme Corp. You'll be able to add the employees. And so you'll go through and individually add the employees if it's just a handful. We also support CSV upload if you're adding, let's say, a business client that has maybe dozens or even over 100 employees. We can support that in a more automated way. But if you're just doing it manually, you'll see this form here and you'll provide the basic information again about the employee. The more information you provide for the employee, the better, because it's just going to make it easier for them when they go actually finalize the process of creating their retirement account. Again, I want to point out that we do support ITIN, so you're going to fill in US tax ID here. It can be a social or ITIN. And then, as I mentioned, the service is available in Espanol, so you can specify what language the employee prefers, and all the communication that goes out to the employee is going to be in that language that you prefer, or that they prefer. And so as soon as you hit add employee, what happens is the employee gets a link through text and email to create their account. And so I'm going to transition to assuming that I'm an employee that's received one of those invite links. And I clicked on it and I'll land on this page. And it says, you've been invited to create your retirement account. Your employer, Acme Corp, wants to help you contribute to retirement. Sign up to start. Had you specified Espanol for the employee, they would have received, again, all the communication. They would have landed on the page in Espanol. And so, as I mentioned before, part of the problem and part of our mission is really to help with the education. So before anybody gets started, they have the option to scroll through and understand, first of all, what is Crecer? I'm getting this invite. How does it work? There's a video. I'll skip that video that just explains what is Crecer and the whole process of investing into an IRA. We have some frequently asked questions. How much does it cost? We're very transparent. I mentioned earlier it's $5 a month. It switches to 0.3% annually if the balance exceeds 20,000. And we also have a program if the balance is less than $1,000, we don't charge. We're trying to help people get started and motivate them to kind of get it off the ground. And then there's more financial education here. So explaining the concept of compound growth, which talks about if you invest over long periods of time, how the balance can really compound against itself and your investments can grow. And we give some mathematical examples to explain that. We also have tax savings, which I know many of the folks know this by heart already, that you have the ability to deduct your contributions to a traditional IRA. We give an example. We give an example about the Savers credit, which again applies to both traditional and Roth IRAs. And just more information for the employee that's considering actually doing this. We also get a lot of questions of, well, how do you invest our money, right? I know you have an automated system that does it, but how does that actually work? So I can go ahead and play this video. It's just a really short video that explains the investment methodology.
When you create your Crecer retirement account, we will ask you a couple of questions to measure your desired risk level and investment objective. From there, our investment model will match you with one of our diversified investment portfolios based on your preferred risk level, investment objective, and age. A diversified investment portfolio is a strategy for putting your money into different types of investments, like stocks and bonds. It's a way to balance your investments to potentially reduce the overall risk of your account. Each portfolio consists of a mix of exchange-traded funds, also referred to as an ETF, carefully analyzed to align with the portfolio objective. An ETF is a collection of similar types of investments that are packaged together in one low-cost fund. Here is an example of one of our medium risk portfolios for someone that has an expected retirement year of 2050. We've included each investment fund or ETF that we use for this portfolio from Vanguard, one of the world's largest providers of low-cost funds. This portfolio is invested in a mix of US stocks, US government and corporate bonds, and international stocks. As you get older, our automated system will slowly shift the mix of stocks and bonds you own to prepare for your retirement years, when you may begin using your savings. This entire process is automated for you. Once your account is fully set up, our investment model will manage your investments with no action needed on your part.
All right. Once the employee reviews all the information, if they decide this is great, they're going to go ahead and create their individual account with Crecer. So they're going to have access to their own account. They can withdraw money, they can contribute money directly. We're going to show you the payroll setup. But if they change employers, we know that happens a lot in the small business community. People jump around from job to job. They're always going to have access to their Crecer account, and they can even ask their new employer to set it up with payroll at the new company. So I'm going to assume I'm Andres Diaz and I got this invite and I'm going to go ahead and create my Crecer account directly. And we do a tax ID match, of course, for security reasons to make sure it's the same person that you invited and you initiated the retirement account for. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then the information that the administrator had put in, I'll just go back and here in Crecer Connect is going to pop up here for the employee that's creating their account. If there's a typo, they can fix it. Otherwise, the employee can just click next. Again, all the information is going to pop up. And as I mentioned, we have two different types of IRAs today, traditional and Roth. And we do a quick explanation here on what the differences are. So for those that don't know, with the traditional IRA, you can claim a tax deduction in the year you contribute, assuming you meet the requirements from the IRS. But you pay income tax on withdrawals during retirement. After you're 59 and a half, you can start withdrawing the money. You just pay income tax based on just the amount that you withdraw. With a Roth IRA, you don't get a tax deduction in the year that you contribute unless it's a Savers credit, which is its own separate thing. But you do get full tax deductions on everything that you pull out after 59 and a half. So even the gains, if you've had the account for 20, 30 years and it's gained a ton, you're not going to pay taxes after 59 and a half when you pull the money out. The other nice advantage for Roth IRA is that we know that especially in the working class community, sometimes things happen in life, people need to take their money out. You have more flexibility with the Roth IRA. You can withdraw the contributions that you've put in at any time, even before the retirement age of 59 and a half, tax and penalty free. Because it's after-tax dollars that you contributed, you have the flexibility to take the money out whenever you need to. Of course, for both accounts, you can qualify for an exemption potentially if there's like a hardship. We don't have time to get into all that, but the IRS does have a lot of rules to allow people to pull money out before 59 and a half, assuming they meet some hardship requirements. If the user still wants to know more, they can click here and get another video that explains the difference between traditional and Roth IRA. We have a full breakdown of all the tax differences. So I'm just going to assume I click a Roth IRA. It's going to verify my income level to make sure I'm below these levels that I can actually open a Roth IRA. And these are the 2025 levels still. And so I'll click next. And then I mentioned earlier that we have a software system that's going to gauge the user's risk tolerance and personalize that portfolio for them. And there's a couple questions that we use here. None of them are kind of set in stone. The user can go back and change it later. And there's really no wrong answer. It's just a personal opinion. So the first one is if your investment account lost 15% of its value, what would you do? Again, it's just personal, whatever your personal reaction is to this type of question. There's varying degrees of risk that people have. So in this case, I'll say, consider this a good opportunity to buy more investments. Click next. Another question that's similar, which best represents your objective for your investment account? And again, the user can go back and change this later. We kind of encourage them to just go with your gut. I'll say grow my account at a moderate pace, accepting some risk for potentially better returns. And we confirm the birthday, address, and residency status. So for financial regulation, we are required to confirm the user's status. But again, we can support ITIN holders. They would, in this case, put permanent resident if they're an ITIN holder. I'll just put US citizen, go next. And here's where we're assuming that this employee wants to contribute because you had mentioned earlier when you created the business account that you manage payroll, that they're going to contribute from their paycheck. And so they have two options. They can do a percent of their paycheck or they can do a fixed dollar amount. And the minimum is just $50, by the way. Again, we're targeting the small business community, so we don't have high minimums to create an IRA. And so I'll assume, let's say 10% here. And there's a few other questions that we're required to ask, again, based on financial regulations, but I'm going to skip that. Once the user creates their account or the employee finishes creating their account, the administrator is going to get an email notification, and we're going to assume that it's Isaac that's finished creating his account. And the administrator is going to get an email saying Isaac has finished creating his Coursera retirement account. You need to update the payroll system to reflect his election. And you'll see here that when you log in, it's going to say payroll update required. Now, if I expand Isaac, I'm going to see that Isaac wants to put 10% of his paycheck into his Coursera retirement account. And what we've done, because we know there's literally almost 100 different payroll systems out there that people are using, is we've set up a way to you can integrate the employees' payroll contributions in any payroll system that you're using by doing a direct deposit paycheck split. What I mean by that is when you click show funding details, you're just going to get a quick warning to make sure that you enter the data correctly in your payroll system. So I'll click got it. We create an ACH deposit account for each employee. So in this case, Isaac, this account number is unique to Isaac. And we provide, this is just a test site, so it doesn't have the real information, but we would provide a ACH deposit account that you can go into the payroll system and set up a direct deposit. So you're essentially doing a paycheck split for this employee. In this case, 90% of Isaac's paycheck would go to his personal checking account, and then the other 10% would be ACH transferred each pay period into this checking account that we've created for the funding. Now, the nice thing is you just have to do this setup once because we're not going to change this account information for the employee, and every pay period it'll automatically get processed. One other thing to note is if in the future Isaac decides 10% is too much, I want to go to 5%, he has the ability to do that in his Coursera account. He can just log in and change his election amount. And you'll, again, as the administrator, get the same exact notification. It'll say payroll update required. And instead of saying 10%, it'll say 5%. So you just have to go in and change that election amount in your payroll system, but you don't have to change the banking information. It's all going to be the same. So it's just a quick update. Now you might be thinking this is great. I don't actually manage payroll for any of my clients, but I still want to potentially help my individual clients out. And so I can switch over to that scenario, which would be if you're wanting to just help a tax client come tax season set up their IRA, you'd go to manage individual clients. You'd click add individual client, same form as before for the employee. So I'm just going to go really fast. You put in all the information. And as soon as you click add individual client, again, the client's going to get an email and text with a link to create their IRA. Now, the process is pretty much the same for the user, for the person that was invited. The difference is they're not going to be contributing from their paycheck this time. So what they end up doing is just connecting their own personal bank account. So I can just show you really quickly what that's going to look like. So we're going to assume that your name is John Smith from Accounting Corp. That's your tax business, and you've invited your client to create their IRA. And so this case, the client's name is Victor Torres, and Victor's going to get his invites and go through the same process we just went through. So I'm going to go super fast because I don't want to bore you by going through the same exact steps. And he's going to create his IRA. And I just want to get to the screen that shows you the difference between setting up your payroll contributions versus doing it yourself through your own bank account. And so I'll go super fast to get to that screen here. And so if you remember before, the question was how much you want to contribute from your paycheck. In this case, the user is actually going to just contribute themselves from their own personal bank account. We use a service called Plaid, which many of you probably know. And with Plaid, you can set up the secure bank connection with Crecer. I don't have that here in the demo site, but it's kind of just a simulated version that imagine you're going through Plaid now to set up to log into your bank and connect it with our system. You click OK, and you'd have the ability to select which account. So let's say this user wants to do a one-time contribution from their checking account. They can pick the amount. Again, the minimum's only $50. Right now, everything defaults to contributing to 2025. But in literally 13 days, crazy to that we're almost in 2026, we will also give the option to contribute to 2026 or 2025. Many of you may know that you have up until April 15th to contribute to the prior year's IRA. So you can help the client right there when you're doing their taxes and say, hey, if you open the IRA and contribute to the prior year, you might be eligible for a tax savings. And you're just helping them invest, obviously. You can also set up a monthly contribution if you wanted to. You have the ability to set up the amount and pick the day of the month, and every month the user's contributions will go straight into their retirement account. Now, since you're not doing a payroll setup this time, there's nothing else for you to do as an administrator. You'll just see here that, Victor's requested. Once he starts onboarding or creating his account, so I do a refresh, it goes to initiated. And then, of course, like this potential client, Carla Jackson, they've finished creating their account, so it just goes to active. And that's just for you to monitor the status of the users that you're helping out. Um, just to wrap up quickly for the demo, again, we talked about financial education. This is just free to use. You can go in and it's available in Espanol or English. You can send some videos, and we're constantly adding more. But we keep it really short and simple. The longest video is 3 minutes, and it's just straight to the point in very simple terms. Understanding what we talked about earlier, cash versus inflation. If you're just saving cash and not earning interest, because of inflation, you're losing money. Compound growth, this is investing over long periods of time, how your money can grow. We explain how the Savers credit works, some of the latest Social Security statistics, how a deduction in a traditional IRA works. You can just go in and maybe you're interested yourself, or if you want to share it with a client, you can just click here and send them an email with the video. And then, of course, we have a help center. It's the same, it's a video of the demo that we just went through with a guide as well, a PDF guide explaining how to use Crecer Connect as an administrator. Just want to repeat, there's no cost for you to use Crecer Connect to help your clients. And we do have a referral fee for leveraging the platform to help your clients get set up. I think that's all I wanted to show, Robert. I'm happy to open it up for questions. I think there's some questions in the chat and maybe on social media as well.
Hey Amir, that was some amazing information. I love how the simplicity of it, right? You got this
Yeah.
app, just kind of open it, pop in the information, and it does all the work for you. I know a
Yeah.
lot of the times when somebody tries to get to offer like a new product or service, there's that
Mhm.
learning curve, right? So
Mhm.
this kind of helps get that learning curve kind of flatten it out a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but we do have a question from Sophia. I believe you answered it already. She's like, how can I enroll in Crecer if I use ADP's payroll? I believe you answered that question, but if you want to go over it real quick again, just
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So, because there's so many payroll solutions, again, the solution we came up with was you can just set up a direct deposit, and we're going to give you the. I'll just show it again. We're going to give you the account number for each employee that you can go add in ADP as essentially like a second checking account for the employee, and then specify the amount that the employee wants to contribute. We know that ADP is a beast. A lot of people are using ADP. We also know we have a lot of customers using QuickBooks, especially in the small business community. Those are actually going to be our first two integrations that we do. It's probably going to take us a few months to roll that out, but from there we're actually going to have a setup to where we can communicate directly with ADP in terms of you just saying how much the employee wants to contribute, and then that coming into our system without having to set up the direct deposit. So we're not there yet, but this is again a pretty simple one-time setup.
That's great. That's great information there.
Yeah.
So does anyone else have any other questions for Amir while we have him, right? At our betting call right now? Any questions that you have? I'm sure he'll take care. Maybe in the meantime, you can show them how they can get a hold of you, website. I already added the website already on the chat, but if you can kind of go over that a little bit
Yeah,
while we
yeah.
wait to
Thanks
see
for
if there's
bringing
any
that
other
up.
questions.
Yeah, so let me pull up the presentation we were looking at a minute ago. Of course, I can't find it right now. Give me 1 second. Mm-mm. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna.
And while Amir's getting that set up right now, once I've heard like there's always like a price to pay, right? There's always a price to pay to wait, and there's a price to pay to get things going, right? And when it comes
Mhm.
to saving and investing for the future, the biggest commodity that we have that we can never get back is time. And so the sooner you can get your clients started on something like this, it's definitely a good a benefit for them.
Yeah, thanks for that. And here's the information. You can just reach out to info@CrecerConnect.app. You can also just QR code just takes you to the website. We have a contact form on the website. We're always happy to do just a one-on-one demo and help you. We even do live help you get set up or help your business client get set up if you want to do the payroll setup for the employees. It is pretty simple to use, but again, if you wanted the hand holding at least for the first time, we're happy to support it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you again for that information. As it looks like right now, I don't think Amir, we have any other questions. But I just want to let everybody know this is being recorded. It will be available on all of our social media platforms. I know Amir and his team will be closely monitoring those pages just in case you guys have any further questions again, or you can contact them directly just by scanning that QR code or the info at Crecer Connect app. So I don't think we have any other further questions right here. Amir, I wanted to thank you so much for your time and for bringing this important topic, up. I think for the most part, I would say our clients, or really anyone, um, would benefit just from listening. And I think the conversation, right? I think more importantly, it's that conversation that you have with that client about saving and doing everything that you need to do for later on in your golden years, right? You always want to make
Yeah.
sure that your olden years are golden, and the only way that you're going to do that is by saving, right? There's no other way around it outside of you coming up with a crazy invention and selling it on Shark Tank or something like that, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
but
sorry, go ahead.
well, I always say there's no secret, right? There's no secret to saving, and the saving is all about starting and, like you said, not in the mattress. It's putting it in the right place, where it's going to earn and work just as hard as you do for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then just to wrap up, I mean, I think a lot of people come to the US with the mindset of they're just going to work till they die, and it's not true. Like, it's really hard to do that, especially as you get older if you're doing physical labor. So I think just helping people understand, and what we find is when people see the benefit, they understand like, okay, I can get a tax savings and government's incentivizing me to do this, and I don't have to know how to invest. Like, we're just going to keep it really simple. they end up kind of converting from somebody who was really skeptical about saving and investing to like, oh, this makes sense, like, I should be doing this. So I think part of, just to summarize that point, is part of it is just lack of understanding and education.
Absolutely. And I think us being tax preparers and being in the forefront of all of our clients, for many of them, retirement and saving, this is probably their first conversation that they've ever had with somebody, or even if they had one before, maybe they didn't even know what questions to ask. Because it's all brand new, right? Like you said, a lot of them came over here, they have that American dream, they want to work, provide, buy a home, do all that great stuff that was promised in the American dream. But so a lot of it's brand new. And when anything is brand new, it's going to take some time for people to understand. But it takes people that with trust and confidence to be able to relay that message to their clients. And you guys are in a perfect position with that trust and, and with that trust, just that trusting figure in that person's life. So
Mhm.
super passionate about this too. Amir, as you can tell,
Yeah.
I've been in the space for 15 years myself. So I feel like it's very important. Everybody needs to know about financial education, financial literacy. Let's help close the gap. This is a great tool to use, right? What Crecer Connect, especially for you as the owner providing the service, right? And
Mhm.
you refer and you make some money. Why not, right? I always like to say
Yeah.
I like to leverage other people's time to make money.
Mhm.
Leverage Amir's time to make you some money, right, for the holiday season.
Mhm. I like it.
But yeah, I think that. Oh wait, hold on. I do have a question over here from Florecita. Flo, can you rewrite that question? Because I only got the first portion of it, and I got does the client. So if you can rewrite that, you can do that in the next, 10, 15 seconds. We could probably get that taken care of. Or if not, you can contact Amir directly, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So does the client enroll with the tax prep, or can they do it on their own?
The client can sign up on their own. Yes, that's a good question, actually. We've made this whole webinar about the administrative dashboard, which is for the tax preparers and the accountants, but the client can just go to Crecer.app. Just to repeat, Crecer Connect is the platform, it's kind of like the back office system for the administrators. Crecer.app is just for individual clients, and they can go sign up on their own.
That's awesome. Great question, Florecita. Um, if there's no other questions, I believe I'm just looking at all my 30 screens that I have here. No, it looks like that's pretty much it for today, Amir. Thank you again so much for giving up your time, right, and providing us with this information and giving us another avenue of to be able to build some wealth for our own pockets, right? Refer and earn.
Yeah,
You refer and you get paid, right? And again, it's a very important topic as well. Thank you again, Florencia. Thank you
right.
for everyone that joined us on all our social media platforms. I believe we might plan on doing this in Spanish as well in the upcoming week. So keep a lookout for your emails, right? And tag anyone that you may think may benefit from this, right? Tag them on our social media. Say, hey, check this out. Watch this video. Because at the end of the day, the more people that get informed, the better it is, right? So again,
Thank you.
Amir, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Eat a lot of food, stay warm. If you're traveling for the holidays, make sure you travel safely. If you're in the snow, have fun, build a snowman, snow angel, whatever it may be. But thanks a lot for joining in with us with Latino Tax Pro.